It's I Love Lucy versus Addams Family in this first round matchup in this TV tournament we are going to talk about today. You will also have a chance to vote at the end of this, but we are going to begin going way, way back to 1951, long before my time. But it was October 15th of 1951. I Love Lucy with the episode called The Girls Want to Go to a Nightclub. There was also a pilot episode of I Love Lucy, but it's not anywhere on any legal streaming site, so I did not include that in these first three episodes. Now today, I Love Lucy has 3 episodes, whereas Addams Family only has 1 that we're going over. Addams Family was only on for 2 seasons, the original series back in the 60s, so not as many episodes as I Love Lucy. That can go either way about which one is better, if you have more episodes in a matchup or less episodes in a matchup, because if you have 1 solid episode, you can have a good grade. Because I'm going to say I Love Lucy has 2 pretty solid episodes, but 1 that I don't think was all that funny. Let's begin with the first episode, which is the girls want to go to a nightclub.
It's our wedding anniversary. Oh, yours and Fred's? No, me and Gregory Peck.
The best part of this episode for me, sure, it's battle of the sexes between Lucy and Ethel and Fred and Ricky. Fred's one-liners about Ethel, by far the biggest laughs of the episode in my opinion.
As soon as they come into the living room, we'll be real nice to them, see? Smoosh them up.
Smoosh?
Ethel?
Oh, you great big Latin lover, you. Sweet, handsome man, you.
You gorgeous, exciting woman, you.
I pass.
Fred does a lot of shitting on his wife here, but it's in a funny way. The other funny part of the first part of this episode is that basically it's Ethel and Fred's anniversary. Ethel wants to go out to a nightclub. Fred wants to go out and watch the fights. And so Lucy and Ethel think if they're nice to, super nice, super sweet to their husbands, they could get them to take them to a nightclub. But then Fred and Ricky have the same exact thought. And so it's just all of them being extra nice to each other, I guess, minus Fred, who is the curmudgeon. I definitely find myself enjoying the curmudgeon characters on these shows. Maybe that says something about me. I don't know. But yeah, the first part of this episode had some really funny lines. The second half of it was kind of ridiculous, because what ends up happening is the girls say, well, if they're not going to be taken out to a nightclub, they're going to find their own dates to go out with. And then the guys say, well, if they're doing that, then Ricky and Fred are going to try and find their own dates too. Lucy and Ethel find out about that and decide to go into disguises as the guys' dates. Now, it takes some suspension of disbelief here because it's easy to tell it's Lucy and Ethel, but for a while Ricky and Fred don't piece that together. Lucy and Ethel are dressed as farm girls in this disguise, being over the top. So some of it was kind of too much, kind of dumb, honestly, but I do think overall the episode was still a funny episode. I said this a while back that I do think I Love Lucy is a very actual, laugh-out-loud funny show. I think the writing here could have been a little better, though, but I still think it was a solid first episode. The second episode is called Be a Pal. This is basically... It starts funny. The first scenes are funny, where Ricky is basically ignoring Lucy during breakfast because he's more interested in the paper than what she has to say. And Lucy starts taking that to heart, especially when Ethel comes in saying, talking about this new book from some doctor about how it could be the wives' fault if the men are losing interest in their wives because the wives are letting themselves go. And so Lucy first tries to dress up for breakfast. She puts on a dress and dresses up, which I thought was pretty funny.
Look at me. Well,
Well, you don't look so good. Let me see your tongue. Say ah.
Ah.
But from there, the episode kind of devolves, where the book also says maybe they could get their husband's interest back by joining in on what their husbands like. And so Lucy joins Ricky for a poker game, which doesn't go good for Ricky and the rest of the guys, his friends that he's trying to play poker with. And then the third thing the book says is that you need to bring your husband back to his childhood. So Lucy tries to make the apartment look like Cuba, where Ricky is from, even though I felt like the decorations were more like Mexico than Cuba to me. She also dresses up as a Cuban woman. I will say, though, the acting here by Lucille Ball with the dance, she was lip-syncing to a Cuban song and dancing along with it, and then the tape starts to mess up and play faster and faster, and she has to keep lip-syncing and dancing with it. She was lip-syncing for her life, to say the least. She did good in the acting category there, but I felt like the second episode overall wasn't as funny. Lastly, though, was the funniest episode of the three, called The Diet, which Lucy is trying to be a dancer to be able to perform with Ricky in one of his shows. But she's weighs too much. She needs to lose 12 pounds in 4 days in order to make it into the dress that they already had made for another dancer who can't do it. Some of the funny parts of this episode is Lucy trying to audition for the part with the younger women. They definitely wrote the younger women well to try and, talk their crap to Lucy, who is older, and she's offbeat when she's dancing with them, and then she ruins the costume because she can't fit into it, and then she goes on her diet. But I think this episode is what shows the truly comedic, the true comedy of I Love Lucy, and that is that it's physical comedy. The second episode kind of showed that too, with Lucy's dancing, but this one as well. There's a lot of actual laugh out loud funny moments with Lucy here when she's trying to audition, when she's trying to work out and lose all this weight and putting her body through too much. Great acting is really what it comes down to here. But I also think this episode was just funny. In the end, Lucy does lose the pounds, gets to perform with Ricky for one night, but then ends up in the hospital because she's malnourished.
They call me Sally Sweet. I'm the queen of Delancey Street.
Yes, Lucy?
Do I get to be in the show every night now, Ricky?
Well, I'm afraid not. You're suffering from malnutrition.
I did notice a lot of I Love Lucy episodes end kind of negative, but they are funny. So overall, I gave it a grade of a 76.7. I do find I Love Lucy funny, and that's why I think it's going to have some pretty strong grades as we go along here in this matchup between I Love Lucy and the Addams Family. The Addams Family is next, and we're only grading the first episode, which is called The Addams Family Goes to School. And I think my biggest problem with The Addams Family is I just think it's so cheesy. And it lacks being actually funny, which is a problem for me with sitcoms. I think that the characters are great, and the characters have chemistry, especially Gomez and Morticia. I feel like they actually do have a very sweet relationship despite being this weirdo family.
Thorns are so much larger this fall.
Lovely, Morticia. You have such a way with roses.
Thank you, Gomez. Did I just hear a peal of thunder?
You did, Tish, you did.
Oh, that's the most heavenly sound. It makes life worth living. You remember our honeymoon, Gomez?
Who could forget our first night in Death Valley?
Obviously, to go along with that, the acting does work. And I think it's a very unique concept, especially probably at the time when the Addams Family came out in 1964. The plot is that a truant officer from the school has to visit the Addams Family because their kids, Wednesday and Pugsley, need to start going to school. He finds the family very creepy, of course. But the part I did enjoy about the episode is that to the Addams Family, the truant officer, I believe his name is Mr. Hilliard, is very odd to them, even though they are the weirdos. I did like that to them, he's the outsider, he's the weird one. Another problem I have with the Addams Family is the laugh track. I don't know if this was a live audience or not, or if it's just a laugh track, but they laugh at everything, and most of the things in this episode weren't funny.
It's Marie Antoinette. Grandmama told us about the French Revolution, and Pugsley chopped off her head.
So I think the laugh track kind of made it even more lame to me. That can be a problem with some laugh tracks or even live audiences who are just laughing at everything to try and make the jokes seem funnier than they are. But to me, it has the opposite effect. In the end, Morticia is going to let the kids go to school, even though Gomez is against it. But yeah, to me, just not enough funny moments in this episode. The funniest moment where I actually laughed was when Gomez is playing with a toy train set and blows it up when Mr. Hilliard is visiting, because that's how he gets his rocks off.
I'm Sam Hilliard from the Sherwood School.
How do you do, Mr. Hilliard?
I just stopped by to talk to you about... They're going to crash.
You think so, huh? Beautiful. Beautiful.
You meant to blow them up?
Of course. Why else would a grown man play with trains?
But overall, it's not funny enough, and I don't think the concept was that interesting. I felt like it was just to introduce the family, which works, especially as a pilot episode, but lacking in the entertaining department. The characters, though, very strong. So I gave this episode a 63 grade. So I Love Lucy is ahead. I think I Love Lucy, it shows its age kind of with some of the things that they do. You know, Lucy dressing up as a Cuban woman. I'm sure that's probably controversial for anybody that watches it today. Cultural appropriation. And also the diet episode, you know, the women having to live in this society. I can see how some of these episodes are probably maybe controversial today, but they were still funny. You can now vote either in the poll or the comment section about who should win game one here between I Love Lucy and the Addams Family.